That's a cool jacket.
In fact,
Yours, that's a cool jacket.
eBay, cool jacket.
eBay,
Yeah.
Alton Town Marshall jackets on eBay.
Very the story, Dan, of the Altascaria donating old equipment or old,
Oh.
uniforms to
Yeah,
DI.
I'm gonna, oh, good.
Yes. People like camped out under a freeway overpass in Alta Ski Patrol coats. That's
Oh. Recording, okay. Here we go.
Giddy up, Roger.
Giddy up,
We,
I'm not writing anywhere.
I am calling the budget committee meeting of April 16th, 2026 to order. It's 3 p.m. In the room, we have Chris Colley, Dan Schilling, Ben Clancy, Mike Maury, and Mark Hake. And then online we have Craig Highmark and Roger Burke. And the first point of business is discussion and possible action to adopt the minutes of the March 12th, 2026 budget committee meeting.
I move as stated.
Second.
Dan motioned, seconded by Chris to approve the minutes from March 12th, 2026. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Minutes are approved. Third item on the agenda is review of the FY 27 budget.
More giddy up.
Giddy up.
That is a nice photo.
Let's see though, if I can actually get it. Are you guys seeing, you guys are seeing the slide of the town of Alta all lit up? Okay.
Town of Alta Budget Committee, April 16th, 2026, with a beautiful background.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
change the slide. What? Whoa, that's the end. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Whoops. I was trying to not have that be in the way, but one thing that Chris and I have done is we've reorganized things a little bit in how we present materials to you. You'll notice there are some of the same slides that we've shown in the past. We're not going to talk about every single slide today, but we figured that this is a resource material for community members, so we kept certain slides with specific information in them. And we're gonna start more on the expense side of things, and then we're gonna go into the revenue side of things, which is usually I think it's just habit because of the way the budget is organized. I go through it revenue to expenses, but we're gonna shake that up a little bit this meeting. Chris, you wanna talk about the slide?
Sure. Well, this is our summary slide. We're taking some guidance to try to deliver the main points early in the presentation. And sounds like this gets us part of the way there.
Yeah.
Still requires a little bit more of a story, but this is a high level summary of standout new expenses. There are a couple ongoing expenses here that I just wanted to verbalize with the budget committee because they've been in the budget for a couple of years and we'd like to keep them there and just want to talk that through and see if the committee agrees. And then on the revenue, we've been talking about the kind of maintenance, truth and taxation property increase that we tried to do last year, and it also talked about applying the transient room tax that's available to us, the local option 1% transient room tax. In the budget numbers we have now, the numbers for expenses and revenues show transient room tax revenue rolled up in the sales tax revenue. So we can clarify that as we go. With the budget, drafts of the budget that we circulated those still require use of cash on hand to balance even with that transient room tax. town's revenue projection. So, yeah, becomes important to talk about some of the new expenses and make sure they're, the budget committee supports them.
I'm losing track of where my mouse is, which computer it's on. Okay. Oh, boy. I didn't set this up very
I don't know,
well.
it's one sensitive.
Maybe just you
Oh,
probably hit the page down.
I would love to do that, Chris, but it doesn't work right now.
So what?
Yes, it is, well, it was not working, this works actually, okay, there we go, no, the page up, page down is not my friend at the moment, but here we go, okay. That's the slide we just were looking at, okay, so now we're gonna go into expenses. So this is the, the typical expense slide that we normally see, we've got the pie chart on the right, for colors and stuff, and then basically. We've got, by subject matter, and this is inclusive of the general fund, the capital projects, sewer and water funds all combined into one. So this is more of a high level programmatic look of how the town is proposing to use the budget expenses. Or
Jen, I had a
Yes.
question on this pie chart. What is the
Yes.
lighter blue wedge at the kind of 7 o'clock position?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, you have no idea.
That would be that would be process of elimination. I can't tell you that right now. I'm sorry. Somehow that must have got cut off.
It looks like about.
I'll have to figure out what that is.
Sewer, it's gotta be sewer. 'Cause
Sewer?
Sewer not
Yeah,
called
it
out
was-
Oh, that's
It's a
sewer,
bigger-
okay.
between recycling and town council
Okay.
chart, so.
Add sewer back on. Okay, thank you for that.
It's a good chunk, Roger, you know?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yep, I don't know what happened to sewer. We still have one. Sewer system.
Oh, there we go.
And Craig, I think, I just looked at the email before I started this presentation. I know you had a handful of questions. It sounds like Chris maybe addressed some of them, but I haven't looked through that
I
stuff.
think I did.
So I'm guessing that you're gonna be vocal where you want us to further explain things. You'll just chime in. Okay.
Yep.
thank you. Okay. I guess one of the bigger points to make out on this slide, is, if we look at the total expense without the capital expenditures. I would have maybe thought that number was gonna be a little bigger this year, but, the difference is only just over $100,000, so
It's all.
in total,
Yeah.
yeah. So that, I think we've just, we've been really fine tuning just our budgeting process, and so, maybe almost too much so in certain areas, but, which calls for budget amendments sometimes later, but, we're pretty tight, I think.
Okay, so, some expense highlights, so. The real story on the shuttle program is what we're thinking about doing in terms of revenues. But for the cost. For the cost, 8% increase in the shuttle cost, that's just in the contract that we have without the shuttle. So that, is starting to become a pretty big number there at 290K. So the contract plan, so this money has been in the budget since fiscal year 24. Craig asked how much we've spent on it this year. That's about $23,000. That is what we've been using to pay John to continue to consult the town. I just don't think, I wanted to highlight it because I don't think we've discussed it much in recent fiscal years, and I would like to keep it in the budget. So that we can have a land use planner available to us when we need to draft code updates. When we get complex applications that need review and so forth. So John, we do assume that John Gollner will probably phase out of our contract with him, but we'd like to sort of bring someone on essentially. So, it's kind of a longer, it's a long story if you take into consideration the town manager job description, You know, we're just finding that with everything we're trying to get done these days. Having someone who can more efficiently draft code updates, for instance, research how things are done in other municipalities. And also do it more cheaply than attorneys, because their hourly rates are always lower. It's just something that we think is prudent for the time being. So that stays in there. The Wasatch Front Regional Council grant match of $20,000, which we've agreed to pay as part of it in our application. That is in the same accounts. That's in the same general fund account as the contract planner. So you see a total of 60,000 in that. It's essentially professional services for land use and planning and land use, or whatever that department is. So the Central Wasatch Commission is asking us to increase our contribution to 10K. That is what it is. We haven't increased the contribution to them in a while.
Yeah, it may be the same as it's ever been. I think it's been the same the whole time we've been with them.
15,000. You're right.
Okay,
Yeah.
You could be right.
no,
15.
yeah.
So we're
This is not a requirement. So if we're having to shop around for, you know, we come up 10K short somewhere, this is a candidate.
So Chris, I had a question on the contract planner. Are you phasing out John Gildner this year, or are you just adding somebody else in to sort of continue after John?
No, we've been expecting that John, we would mostly phase out of John for day-to-day stuff, and we often talk about having some kind of arrangement with John so that we can call him from the office to John for advice about, like the Strauss estate, for instance. But in terms of new work, new consulting on, or new contract assistance for a land use planner, it would be a new person. So the 40K amount would not change. I assume most of that would be devoted to this new person. That makes sense?
Yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, we're going to need John for the Schrontz estate stuff. There's just too much history there, but for new stuff, that seems fine.
But to summarize your off ramp, it's sort of a soft off ramp. We don't need to draw on him and become sort of a, hey, we need to call you. If I call you, then we'll pay for.
Yeah.
Pay as you play.
We've been working this way for a couple of years.
Yeah, he kind of, I call him less and he bills less, and
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
it's transparent between us,
Cool.
He knows where we're going, so.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Our Lady of the Snows improvements, these are not expenses of the magnitude we typically call out, but we only have spent a couple $1,000s, I think, in it. Improvements out of the general fund on Our Lady of the Snows, and we just, have some sort of general maintenance improvements to work through in the building. So there's an additional 14K for a total of 16K in that facilities, ground supplies and maintenance category for, or account rather, for Our Lady.
Now that the dust has settled and we're doing some things to, keep up the building, I'm so motivated that we have this town community center. That's such a great thing.
Pretty nice.
Yeah.
That's an ace photograph too. It's such a nice photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a great photo.
Yeah. And they're happy, like everybody's happy. This is great. Anyway, I digress.
The biggest segment of our expenses is our wages, is our workforce. And so we did not do a formal update of the Swallow worth of work framework this year. We decided we'd kind of done that the last 3 years. We've kind of gotten folks we knew where they were on the chart on the bottom left of the screen here. So, I have that there as a reference point of kind of where we're working, but we did not spend the time to do that. I think it would be great to kind of go bottom from the ground up on that and review all of our job descriptions. And the point value we associate with them, with different positions. Chris now as the town manager. Cause when we first did that, it was John Goldner, Mike Morey and myself, and so I think enough time has passed now, it'd be good for Chris to have some input, on that, so I think maybe we could try and squeeze that in like late next fall or something like that.
How is it that admin went down?
Budgeting, better budgeting, so like remove.
Oh,
some-
reallocation
I
to-
like just me looking and also,
So you mentioned
there-
that.
So when I first started doing this, we were just adding a overtime buffer to like everybody in the department. And that doesn't really make sense because half the department is on salary. So,
Hmm.
you know, so I think we were over budgeting previously, and so now the way I do it is I back out those salaried employees, and then also our part-time employees are not working as much overtime.
That's great.
So I just
Jen. I think that's great.
Adjusted how I do that. So, you know, so legislative, I kept those numbers the same because the council, at least last year, voted not to do increases to the town council and the planning commission, so I just went with that for this year again, so you'll see those numbers didn't change. And then, you know, most of the other numbers are very small incremental. I mean, they're really mainly due to the 3% COLA that we're gonna have across the board.
And that
I'm a
$45,000.
little confused on the police department, because I thought it was, from looking at one of the other slides, I thought it was gonna be an increase of like $116,000 next year, and that's not what's.
It's
shown.
not, Craig, because we're talking about bringing on, I'll get to that here in a minute and I'll explain it when we
There's an
are.
overlap.
It might be this slide right here. So we're talking about bringing on a successor to Mike on like roughly March 1st of 2027. So there's basically for the 2027 budget, we would only have 1 quarter's worth of wages. And then the vehicle, the personal expense, the IT, those are all kind of like one-time first buy-up onboarding things. So for the FY 27 budget, I'm estimating roughly 110,000. But I did want to provide the annual cost of what, you know, bringing on another deputy is. And this is kind of the same information we've provided in the past, but at a little bit of a higher pay range. Now, it depends on some of the things that are gonna go into this are that person's wage is probably going to be different when they're training under Mike than when Mike actually retires and they take on that role. So, you know, these numbers are gonna change a little bit.
But Jen, in the previous slide, I think you only had 40,000 difference or 50,000 difference between the two numbers.
In
here.
wages, and if you look at
That's wages
and
only?
benefits, yes,
That's wages only.
yes.
The
So
other stuff
this-
isn't allocated to the police department?
Correct, it is, but this is just the wages. This is just wages straight
Oh,
up.
it's all,
It's
I see.
not
I'm
benefits.
sorry, that the title says wages. Got it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And then also too, just taking a closer look at when I am doing the budgeting for the employees, knowing what the pay rates are. Making sure that I'm not like adding OT on to salaried employees and part-time employees, just really associating it with the full-time employees. Does that answer all your questions then on
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I think so. Just one other thing, just to make sure I'm understanding the numbers, which is the difference between the expenses was between the 2 years is more or less 100 grand. It looks like of that 45 is in wages. And is the rest of it right here in like the vehicle and the personal gear, you know, the difference between the wage element of here and the 111?
Yeah, so the wages the wages are in just strictly the wage
Yep.
item. The vehicle is actually in the capital projects fund budget.
Ah,
And then the personal gear, IT and miscellaneous are all within the police department's budget.
All right, so the vehicle's capitalized.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
Now, after Mike retires, we're going back to the same workforce and support that we have, correct? Is that the plan? I
Exactly,
realize-
that is the thought right now, yeah.
Okay. So,
So this is almost like bringing on like a sixth person just for the succession part, planning part of it, and the
Yes.
training. And
Got
then we go back to 5.
Yep.
So,
I think all budgets should have body armor and firearms.
yeah,
this is a repeat slide from last time, but it's, you know, it's just big picture things on like why the town might need to raise revenue. You know, being fiscally responsible, you know, and also just, I think one thing that Chris and I have been really, at least internally talking about, is trying to reduce our reliance on revenue sources that aren't at, you know, this is mainly has to do with the shuttle, but you know, programs that we don't feel are as stable
Yeah,
Right.
long term.
you can't forecast with the same confidence,
Right.
because it varies.
Right, so
I
we're
think-
trying to stabilize the budget as much as we can. I mean, we are heavily sales tax dependent. So I don't wanna, I mean, that is a big deal for us, but other areas where we can reduce that. Right. So this is our revenue source slide in the big buckets. You will notice the second line down, the sales tax. The big thing here is going from the 1.8 million to the essentially 2.1 in 2027. That's a difference of $200,000, which is if the town were to impose the transient room tax. That's the reason for the difference there in those numbers.
So it's an increase in the taxes. It's not, you're not forecasting just more in the sales tax.
yeah.
Correct.
It's,
Jen, when, if we apply and collect the TRT and then we have it in the chart of accounts, we would have it in a separate account. wouldn't
No.
we? Really?
Nope. It's gonna get bundled with a bunch of other stuff, and I am not gonna know exactly what it is.
Huh,
I don't think.
really?
it'll take a couple of years to sort of figure it out, and even then it'll get just in a general sense.
Because the resort community tax isn't broken on either, huh? Interesting.
But what matters is, we know that it's a pass through, and if we can expect, we can
It's
expect
really, yeah,
a pretty predictable increase to go along with that.
Yeah.
Not that it's a wild increase, but it's predictable.
I do not wanna be overly confident in my 200,000 number. I mean, it was
Right.
really wonky to try and figure out what that number is, because, I mean, yes, we know we know what the total sales are in the community, but we don't know which buckets those sales, so I don't get reports that tell me, oh, this is from lodging, this is from, like, I don't get reports that tell me which buckets that money is coming from, so
So
it's
what matters
pretty
is-
hard to anticipate.
That's right. What matters is we'll be collecting it, which is an appropriate thing to do for the town.
I made assumptions in coming up with that figure. I just said, okay, my feeling is it's gonna be this percentage of the total
Everybody's
sales
gonna back,
tax. So I was trying to be conservative
as you always are.
in that. And then the other thing which I've mentioned before, but is in both the water and the sewer departments. Because we have big projects going on there, actually mostly the water one, we're kind of double dipping a little bit on and that's probably not the right term to use, but I have funds budgeted in both years. What's gonna happen though is we're not gonna fully expend in FY 26, and then I'll just push forward into 27 what we haven't spent, so we'll be reasonable in what we actually spend, and we'll adjust the numbers as we go. But I don't have any information yet about how we're gonna finish up 26 to say, oh, we're only gonna spend this, I should push exactly this much forward. I've kind of just taken the numbers at this point that we haven't spent and pushed them forward, but I think we still will do some stuff to get closer to finishing those projects.
That's a good,
So I'll adjust that if I have good information before we adopt the tentative.
that's a
budget
great
in May.
approach.
I don't have anything else to say about this unless you do, Chris.
I don't.
I didn't see any firearms.
This is
Revenues.
slide on, just to start preparing us for truth and taxation conversations and the sort of information that we need to be presenting to the community. We're talking about $100,000 tax revenue increase, so going from 104 to $405 to $505,000 for property tax. And because I don't have 26 numbers yet, I just, it so happens that the number we're proposing this year is the same as last year. I used last year's average values to present some information, just to give people some sort of indication of, you know, close numbers to where we probably will be, but these numbers will certainly change. And we are, at this point, we are scheduled, we have a placeholder on August 11th at 6 p.m. for a truth and tax.
Yeah, because it's the day before town
It's
council.
the day before town.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So we had a whole nother slide, a really nice slide on all of the steps we're required to take this year. Removed from the deck.
It was a very huge list of things that the point of the slide was just to say that we're tracking this, you know, because of what happened last year, and just making sure that we are checking every single box as we go through the process.
The TRT, yeah, so been a topic for a while, kind of at the last minute, put some content in the newsletter that was sent yesterday about the budget, and a big part of my motivation was getting the word out that this is under consideration. You know, we know the lodging operators don't like it. I can't blame them. You know, we will have 16.12% sales tax rate on lodging if this is added to the 15.12 rate that applies currently. But these are the basics. You know, we vote to apply at one time, and then it applies to short-term rentals and hotel stays. It's true that revenue is often designated for tourism. It's not technically restricted, it's general revenue. We talked last time about feeling the need to have a really solid justification for it. So this is where I mentioned that the big story with the shuttle, as far as we're looking at the budget right now, Jen and I are looking at the budget, is that we are proposing that we no longer collect voluntary contributions for the shuttle. The shuttle budget, last year's shuttle budget of about $270,000, if I'm right on that, is about half outside contributions. So we're proposing not to collect the contributions from the residential and short-term rental properties on the bypass road or the hotels or even the ski area, to assume we collect from UTA. So that $50,000 contribution from UTA is still in the budget, but otherwise we don't show any voluntary contributions in the budget. So anyhow, that let's see, I think I made a note. Well, anyways, so that's the big story with the shuttle, and that's part of the justification to collect this additional revenue. Another obvious one being that at least for the next couple of years, we're gonna have some additional payroll expenses in the Marshal's department. So anyway, the last bullet is bolded. I think Craig didn't, maybe we didn't articulate that correctly. We said early in the presentation that this budget still uses cash to balance the general fund. It uses less cash because it has $200,000 of additional of transit room tax revenue in it. And if we take that out, we would have to use more cash to balance the budget. So this is a big deal. I mean, the transit room tax is a big deal. What we're contemplating doing with shuttle revenues is a big deal to be discussed. Does that answer the question that you had about this?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, let me make a comment or two and ask another question, which is on the shuttle. you believe you can get 50,000 from UDOT this year. I'm assuming that goes away when enhanced busing comes back. Is that your assumption?
Maybe, it's hard to say, I mean, that's from UTA, so, yeah, there's a lot of ways we could take that, but that's UTA funding, and when UDOT runs the enhanced busing. I think UTA is still gonna be required to provide like, one bus in the morning, one bus in the afternoon, or something like that. As part of their chart, but you may know better, so I just don't know, but. Maybe we should ask them, maybe before we finalize the budget, we should ask them if they can contribute next year. I mean, they're gonna fund the ski bus next year and the following year, I believe. So.
But the Skeeto bus doesn't necessarily, I mean, sometimes when there's, a huge use of the resort shuttles is people that are staying.
Yeah.
In, the short-term rentals on the bypass road that are getting to and from the ski area, to and from restaurants in town.
Yep.
And I don't know that either of those services is going to, do that anymore,
Oh, yeah,
the
well,
same way.
we don't, I guess one thing I will say about the notion of, no longer collecting those voluntary contributions is that I think it would provide us flexibility with the service program. And I know there have been some Tom Schneider at Alta Shuttles had some hangups with the way that the service works, so. We may be able to have a little bit more latitude if we're not collecting that, those contributions. Now, if we're collecting transient room tax from the same entities. There'll still be an
Well,
expectation, but
It's
anyway,
not, I don't see it as the same entities because basically the beneficiaries of the particularly the night shuttle, well, the day shuttle too, are the people that are renting property or living in property in West Alta. And we're basically shifting the cost of the shuttle that provides them a service to those who are staying in the lodges and paying the transient room tax. Is that
and
right?
short-term rentals.
Yeah, they're all using it.
Yeah, so anybody who rents their house anybody in West Delta who happens to rent their house will collect transient room tax from their customers.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's not only the hotels. It's
Got it.
all short-term rentals, which includes the hotels and the residences on
The place in the picture right there.
Yeah.
But there certainly are some, residential properties, in West Delta on the bypass road that don't rent, and many of them don't contribute, but well, many of them contribute. I mean, there are folks in the village of Sugar Plum and the View who don't rent for sure. Powder Ridge folks don't, I would say most folks don't rent, and they contribute, so.
Oh, there's quite a few rentals there.
Not really.
So
Go ahead, Roger.
I just want to kind of convince myself that this is a fair way of funding that service.
Well,
Well, right, and our problem right now is that it's a voluntary contribution to the town, and we have certainly had a number of folks that just say, we're not giving this year.
Okay.
And when there's no hammer for us when that happens, the town just has to step up to fill
Yeah.
those gaps.
Yeah, we're switching
So-
from altruism to programmatic, which is a smart move.
Yeah, it's a better way.
And then Chris, on
Thanks.
your comment here about reduced dependent on use of cash to balance general fund, do you mean the difference, the $100,000 shortfall that we have between the expenses and the revenues, or do you mean something else?
well, what is the use of cash assumption in this budget?
I think it
240?
went down to, no, it's closer to 2. Let's see, it might not be in
It's
the.
under like second slide,
Is
240.
It's not included in this. It's in it's in the actual detailed budget.
Oh,
I wanted to keep it below $300,000 because that's 10%.
right,
Well,
yeah.
Now we're at 4 million.
Right, so
I think I have it, it's in the mid 200,000.
240, I think it's 240, that's in slide
Yeah,
3.
it's changed
And-
so much lately, so.
And let me try to restate the whole point about use of cash, Craig, you know, the budget that Jen sent out last night. Yeah, I believe it's $240,000 in use of cash, and that's to balance the general fund, assuming we don't exceed our sales tax projection. So even with $200,000 of new transient room tax revenue, we're still using cash to balance the budget, and we're not contributing to the capital fund. So, if we take on these cost increases and reduce the shuttle revenues, without applying the TRT, the use of cash goes up. And then we're probably under more pressure to start talking about cutting expenses, not increasing the expenses in some of the ways we've described. So I just think it's a major fulcrum of the budget, whether we have or don't have this transit room tax revenue.
Yeah, look, I assumed we would pass it given all our needs, and I think you're highlighting it as taking on the shuttle is smart, both because of Roger's comment, because it's fair, and we need the money. So I don't think there's much issue about that. The one comment that I would make, and you know, at the risk of raising the ghost of John Byrne, as our budgets go up, we generally wanted to have, you know, 100% buffer. I don't think we're going to be able to maintain that, certainly particularly as we spend more and more on the capital stuff. That probably means we need to move towards monthly budgeting so that we can be a lot more precise on not just the use of cash, Chris, at the annual level, but also the working capital buffer and things like that, just to make sure that we've got enough buffer.
Sounds good. And I'll just, you know, one more thing in transit room tax, like I have not been a strong proponent of this. I don't necessarily know if I would describe myself as a strong proponent now. I've felt in the past, like just generally saying we need to save for the future, that wouldn't cut it in most taxing entities. But earlier this week, I appreciated that, yeah, even with this new revenue to balance the budget, and given we have a conservative sales tax projection that we sometimes exceed, but to balance the budget, even with this new revenue and take on some of these new expenses that we feel are reasonable, we're still using cash to balance the budget. So it's not like we're just collecting money for no reason. You know, we're not allowed to do that, for one thing,
But that's my point, Chris. We're getting less conservative than we used to. So I think we've got to get a little bit better on the monthly budgeting to make sure we've got enough of a buffer. But I will take the opposite opinion on the transient use tax. I know the last time we proposed it, there was some general pushback from the lodges, but it doesn't appear to me that the marginal elasticity of demand is such that we'd lose any lodging business over it. I think snow and other factors are much, much bigger than the slight increase.
Victor? I think you touched on this.
We've talked about this, impact fees previously, and, you know, the state these are heavily regulated. And, you know, we brought this up with the council, I wanna say a year and a half ago. We did have some money in the budget to do a study. Every time staff goes back to the table and looks at the risk reward on this and doing the study, it really, we're not like, I actually had a background in here of, and I took it out, but it was like, we're not like a place like Eagle Mountain where we're growing. And we have to keep adding on these services to like just keep up and keep the base services the same. Yeah, we're gonna have some development in Alta, you know, some, but it's just not at the scale that makes it worthwhile to go through conducting these studies every 6 years and applying them. I think in the long run, it doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
No.
And we have other vehicles,
Where we're at.
we have other vehicles available to us to address some of our needs
Yes.
that we understand and have used and are starting to implement anyway, so. It's not like we're cutting off our ability to address requirements.
Yeah.
To use some specific language, we can maintain our existing level of service to all of our customers and really any additional development that's going to take place in Alta with given current constraints without an impact fee.
Yeah.
If that was not the case, that's really the threshold, then we could create an impact fee. Now, if we create an impact fee, then we have to essentially project the projects that are necessary to maintain level of service if development occurs, but it has to occur in a certain timeline.
Yeah.
You can only hold the fees for a certain amount of time. So if you say we need to do XYZ project to maintain level of service because of this development, and it doesn't happen for 10 years,
You can't do
collect
it.
those. Yeah. So.
And Chris and Jen, I just want to make sure you saw my comment about this still makes sense to you on the verge of potentially approving the Trance 10 plot, the 10 mega mansions.
Yeah, so they are providing their own water system. And they're entitled to a certain amount of our source capacity. They will use our sewer system, but we've got enough capacity in the sewer system generally that 8 or 10 single family homes are not gonna impact the level of service we provide across the system.
That makes sense.
And-
I got it.
There are. Okay. All right,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So can I ask a question about this one, Jen? So.
Yeah.
When I was looking through Craig's comments and when I replied to a comment that he had on impact fees. I guess generally I was thinking, okay, impact fees. Is that that's not shown in the budget in the impact fee fund. It's a general fund department.
It's
Is
a
that correct?
department, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Gotcha.
Oh, I'm just, yeah.
Okay. Okay, okay,
So, yeah, so going away from the general fund, now focus more on capital projects.
capital projects, then water and sewer and. That's that. So, yeah, design a building, so we've got $100,000 in the capital fund, capital projects planned for next year. To do a feasibility and programming study. We don't know if that's the right amount. I'm hoping to have a draft scope of work for an RFP for that project tomorrow. See about that. Been saying that for a little while, but the purpose of this project would be to determine the scope of the building. Or, series of improvements if we're gonna replace the building we're in right now. And make some changes to the town office, for instance. We would hope to come out of it with a design document, a schematic design or something like that, and do some basic site analysis. So to your question, Craig, your question in the slides about whether you had a question under the new building heading in the lower right corner, whether we need money to support the estimated building costs. That is this design and building costs. I didn't highlight that we would get a construction budget estimate, but that's a sort of core element to that project as well.
And that includes the site analysis thing that we're planning on doing?
Yeah, hopefully. It will include it. I guess what I say hopefully about is that we've got the budget for it, but
Yeah,
$100,000.
that will be included in
Yeah.
the ceiling of 100K.
Yeah, yep. And we're gonna get with UDOT, and I think they're gonna contribute to the design budget, so.
That's great.
And I hope you also saw my note about the fact that my guess is the Citizens Committee may require us to go back to the architectural firm and spend some more money. Do you think that 100 will cover all of those things? My point is this, Chris. we're about to spend a lot of money on capital stuff. We don't want to short shift the planning process, for 50 grand or something like that at this stage, because we want to make sure we're doing the right things.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I remember when I framed a house once, I was putting the sill plate on the foundation and someone was like, it's really important you put the sill plate in the right place, because if you don't, the rest of the house is out of square. And you know what? The house ended up out of square, like really out of square. That was- Anyway. Yeah, so this is a super important part of the scope of work. It's just tough to say what input or additional scope, project scope, a committee engagement could require. I think when we write the scope of work, it will include committee engagement. So we'll have them come to make a couple committee presentations or something like that. And that takes
Yep.
budget and it yields really good input. So, beyond that, we'll just have to see how it goes. And does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So Tom, more stabilization, it's been on the plan for years. I have a couple ideas for partnerships. One of which is a possible contribution by UDOT for cultural resources and impact mitigation funding. It was in the EIS or the record decision. The Tom Ward toilet is a cultural resource. It's within a certain radius of the.
Did they bring that up? Did they raise
That would
that?
be very.
That would be super cool.
Devin was gonna make sure it stayed in the document. I remember getting a call, it was a couple of years ago now. So I guess I probably shouldn't jump the gun on getting excited,
Oh, but-
but
That seems like it would be actually a great fit,
totally.
essentially.
That's exactly what it's for.
Excellent.
It's what it's for. They knew we wanted to do it, and so they came up with that. Yep, and then maybe historical society contribution, so we'll see. But we're writing, Fred actually is kind of doing on an RFP for that.
Oh, great.
So for OLS, we've had funding in the capital plan for a trailer restroom for a couple of years. Of course, we all know that, we're not going to be in urgent need of a trailer restroom here after the summer. Hopefully it goes according to plan. So I have been thinking about essentially, reprogramming that funding to do a design project at OLS. Fred's also working on that, on scope for procurement for RFP. We are gonna do a little bit of work to repair the stairs at OLS. But we wanna consider more of a redesign, to bring it up to ADA standards. And when we do that, we may, wanna make some improvements to the patio, such as installing a radiant system. And then we've talked about having trailer amenities there as well, so all of those things require formal design input. And so we are looking into, again, this is funding that, has been in the budget for trailer restroom, but we wanna reprogram it to some future vision level planning for OLS. We've talked about the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I say something about the truck? After Mike retires, we'll have one extra truck. What's the expectation?
Well, that'll probably go to like part-timers or something. I mean, there's a cycle that we put them through and then we offload usually the oldest one, so. I mean, we'll sell it,
We'll sell.
or
Okay.
we'll sell the oldest one.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
So eventually we'll sell Mike's truck, but we'll see.
Yes,
never
it just may
Black
not be the next one to be sold.
But never Black Beauty.
Yeah.
It will be the
Yes.
Mike is saying it'll be the oldest truck when he retires, so that
Gilded
lines up.
truck. All right.
So I think we lost a heading in this. I should have said water fund projects, but at the upper
Oh,
right
yeah.
column, so. That I think those two first sub bullets are about the Crosto water line project. So we've had a couple things increase the cost on that project, the big one being. Impacts from the cultural resources finding when they exposed the old town site.
That was like $50,000 to us, right?
Oh, yeah,
That was
because
our
the scaler
portion.
spent $100,000 on archaeologists to, document the findings. So if we'd done the project on our own, we would have made the same mistake, more or less. So, I agreed with Mike that we would split the costs, and that's what it amounts to. It also delayed, it was amongst a couple of things that delayed the completion of the project. So we have some additional mobilization costs, which is essentially the cost to, commit a construction crew and get equipment up here. I know that our contractor Newman, the ski area's contractor Big D, Fred and the ski area met in the parking lot yesterday, and we're looking, I think, actually to start working on that in May.
Nice.
So that's really good that we're gonna get that online. And then the remote meter reads, I think we've talked ad nauseum about how those installs just get more and more complex as we go, and we're still chipping away at them, right?
We gonna
This-
finish them this year?
No,
Oh, jeez.
we'll get closer. I mean, the amount of the complexity and the plumbing issues. It's like a full-time job for somebody to figure out all these nuances and make it make sense. It's just. And, we're doing that project is among many other things, so it's.
Okay.
Asymptotically approaching completion.
Yeah.
Asymptotically, sure, yeah.
JPL.
No, I cannot wait till we are done with that project, though. I am very motivated to get there, but it's just.
So I think we addressed the issue with the Albion parking lot extension, the fact that was, well. We adopted a budget amendment to cover the $25,000 total costs. The construction costs ended up being more because of the rat's nest of stuff that's under the asphalt over there. The design costs ended up, or the construction costs ended up being more, the design costs were much less. It still came in right about at the top of the budget we had. We actually have a procurement out right now for engineering. It's a procurement for general town engineering services that includes a request for people to indicate availability to do design on the Wildcat lot replacement as soon as they can. So yeah, I think we've got the $389,000, $390,000 capital expense in the sewer fund budget for this year, assuming that we get that thing in the ground before ski season, which is hopefully not wishful thinking, given the date. The new building, yeah, so that line item hasn't changed, sort of prescient that it is a $9 million project. We've been talking about a $10 million project. Not to commit anything, but it hasn't changed. It shows $3 million per fiscal year over 3 years capital plan.
Water funds, in the newsletter yesterday, we said that water rates were gonna, increase by 12%, and I got it down to 9. So I think that's a good thing. We'll see, that's still, I have a couple things at play still in the water fund budget that I need to work out. But it will definitely not be, the rate increase to the user will not be above 12. Again, just the math to figure out what the rates are is you take the total cost of operating the system, you divide it by the ECU values, and you get your rate. It's pretty simple. And then we have different ECU values for houses, which is the 1.25 versus the commercial units. So capital projects are not included in that operating budget. Those get backed out, so.
And Craig had a question on the last note about
Okay.
infrastructure budgeting, so I'll just clarify that. The proposal is to save $50,000 this year for infrastructure, and the parenthetical remark is to clarify that that's a third of what the engineering firm that did our master plan recommends, and if we went that way, it would be like a 30% rate increase. So we think that's a good idea. Obviously, that's a lever the council can pull if we want a smaller rate increase. But
Yeah, I was, 10% is roughly what I was going for, you know, I was trying to be close to that in my,
That's more or less what Burn's,
Yeah.
rate increase tool that assumed more or less the capital expenses are planned projected, had, so.
And that was my other comment, Chris, is we probably need to get back to that kind of long-term tool like John Burton did, but our own version of it, not his.
Right,
well, I mean, he's shared that with me, it's a, I mean, but it, you know, he had somebody that was updating it on a regular basis, so we could go in and, you know, we have a functioning tool.
Okay.
The intent was to share with us, but yeah. We would have to go in and update that. And then this slide is just to help with like the hotels and stuff if they're trying to understand, you know, as a reference, tool. The water fund. Sewer fund. 10% rate increase on this one. And I don't know if you want to talk about projects or.
the sewer, we do it, well, sure, I mean, the
Yeah.
project that's relevant on this slide is that Wildcat parking lot
Okay,
replacement.
yeah, the 380.
Yeah, and yeah, so. I mean, again, the last bullet, 30K for infrastructure replacement.
Yeah.
The engineers recommend even more annual savings, for a 62% rate increase, so.
Yeah.
Someone once said, we can only pay so much for our water and sewer, and. Now we are where we are, so, anyway. Oh, you didn't do the one with the tunnel?
Well, I
You don't
mean,
need
this
to,
is,
it's
this
okay.
is just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
the reference slide for the commercial users and stuff, so I don't think. Most of the
Yep.
information's already captured in the.
Yep, so, possible future West Grizzly sewer connection, so. Yeah, we did that budget amendment to square up, partially to square up the expense the town covered to upgrade the sewer lateral to the cold storage building, so that one day it could possibly become a town of Alta sewer line. The restroom, project being donated by the Skirius contractor, provides an opportunity to do another segment there. We have been in discussions with the Skiri and their contractor about what it's gonna take to turn what would be a 4-inch pipe to serve the bathroom, or so their engineer proposed, into a sewer lateral or a sewer main. And there's a wide range of we don't have a design yet, we don't have a budget yet. And because there's a wide range of design possibilities, there's a wide range of possible costs. Yeah, $150,000 is a lot of money for a project that there's a lot of money for a project when we have so much deferred maintenance on the existing system. So I'm really hopeful that we can find a cheap alternative. I think we can. Of course, time is of the essence on this. The ski area needs to order the parts. We don't technically have any budget for it now. So I don't know, it's an uncomfortable position. I think we're doing the best we can to find a pathway. So that's what I have to say about that. The graphic on the right is not the alignment that's being pursued. That's just a drawing that was done in the past, I believe, by the homeowners. So the alignment is to the east.
So, Chris, just to make sure I understood what you said, at some point we might have a budget. And when we have a budget, then we would make a decision on whether we were going to do this. And right now, there's nothing in the budget that includes any of this extension.
Correct. Yes, I mean, when we did this budget in the spring, there was no restroom project donation.
Right.
It wasn't until like about November that we started talking about it. And I think the notion that could facilitate a sewer extension was, was raised at that point. We didn't think about the budget in terms of it, at that point, so. Anyway, I mean. Yeah, so. I don't know what we're gonna have to do to make it work in super short order, but that's to be discussed further, I think. So I think we can find a way to do it, Craig. I deal, especially if.
Chris, I'm just reacting to your town needs to decide ASAP, and all I'm
Yeah.
saying is, okay, we gotta have budget before we make a decision.
Oh, for sure, and we just don't know what the design is, I mean, it has to be, for it to be a town sewer line, it has to be approved by Cottonwood Improvement District. Approved, and that has some requirements for pipe size, which is what increases the cost.
Got it.
So it's occurred to me that maybe it doesn't have to be a town development line, and it could be a lot smaller. So that's a nascent concept that's probably not worth discussing any further at this juncture, but yeah, that's the story on that.
So our next,
At 4
Oh, yeah.
o'clock, right?
yeah, our next meeting is on May 12th, which is a Tuesday at 4 p.m. And then the tentative budget will be, a tentative budget is required to be adopted by the town council the following day on May 13th. So Craig, I want to thank you for your comments on the presentation. I'll go back through those because I'm sure there are some improvements to the slides that we can make for the next round of this. I kind of see this presentation being closer to what we would present to the council than the former one, and so we'll work on updating this. Only having a day in between the two meetings, I guess, doesn't provide that much time for major overhauls.
44 hours, yeah.
And I will need to be posting a tentative budget 10 days in advance of that meeting. So, edits can be made to it, of course, in the meeting, but,
Right.
Well,
for everybody, I'm gonna go with something that's very probably similar
So that's
to what we have to what I sent out as an attachment.
Jim, I made a bunch of comments. That's just because
Okay, great. Great.
That's just because I'm compulsive and anal. In the overall realm of things, all the information's in the slides that you presented. And, you just have to appreciate that I made my comments as I read, and then often the stuff was later. But, my general comment would be, because it's a budget thing, put a number next to almost everything.
Okay,
And other than that, I mean, look, the information's there. So I am sure I will do the same thing next time, but I'll do it on the 10-day one, so you'll have plenty of time to revise it.
So I think
Mike?
Jen's, go ahead, Roger, sorry.
My comment is, I think you guys have done a terrific job of pulling all this together. I mean, it's not a simple situation, even though we have a small town and so forth, and we also have a very small staff to work this. And I want to commend you on doing what you've done.
I second that. I think you guys are doing a great job. You're very diligent and you're forward thinking, but you're conservative at the same time, and that's serving us well. We should keep doing that. We being you guys, not me.
so it doesn't sound like there's any major heartaches in anything that we've presented, and
think
to kind of
No,
continue to go.
All your
I think it's-
recommendations, I think, were very good.
Yeah.
And I think it's
Sensible.
time the TRT is upon us, and I think we're ready for that, and it's been out in the wild, and so people know, and it's time to move down the road.
You have to be domesticated. So
Perhaps.
Back to the point about, public input on that, we did put it out in a newsletter. Last week, I was thinking, gosh, we really need the lodging community to know, so they feel like they have an opportunity to provide input. I was gonna call the GMs, I thought, that's not transparent, because aren't other people interested? Let's put in a newsletter. I'd still like to make contact with the lodging operators, it's not that hard, you know?
Well, and you can do it as a
There's
follow-up now that you've done this.
Yeah, so. I think we gotta do that, I think we gotta beg for input, we need folks to know, so that if July rolls around and we've imposed the tax and they go, huh?
Yeah.
Now, a couple of the lodging operators call us or call Jen and say, hey, what's it looking like, you know, what's, cause they have to set their rates. Right, they have to set the rates like right about now. So that's,
Chris, this is why I think you're positioning the transient room tax as quid pro quo for the shuttle is very smart. I just don't think, I think you should call them. I think you should explain that to them, and I would hope that upon that explanation, they're not going to squawk.
Well, squawk.
yes, I just want, I just highlight. That when, so here's just an anecdote from the past, when the town applied the resort community tax. Was about 20 years ago, I wanna say, 25 years ago. The guarantee was that it would be used to fund Alta Chamber and Visitors Bureau. And the Alta Chamber Visitors Bureau at the town was pretty significant by our standards, especially at the time, it was about 80K or more. But unless the revenue is a restricted source per the tax code, such as fourth quarter transportation tax, so we just can't bind future councils, and it's like, it's a little, I think there's a way to do it that doesn't, you know, that isn't untrue. Right, it's not true to say this is restricted revenue that will only be funded by the shuttle, because the next council can say, we're keeping the revenue and we're gonna buy vehicles for ourselves, no. Just kidding, but so anyway, I mean, yes, I think you're right, Craig, I think you're right that it's, you know, whatever the revenue increase is, it's important to justify it, and it's easier to justify the tangible, other side of the coin. So that's one thing, the other, just back to is that last slide, and Jen made a good point, we should reiterate, it's helpful that you guys seem to think the budget is in good shape, but I think what Jen was saying is essentially the tentative budget will be done on May 1st.
I'm gonna post it on May 1st.
That is the last business day prior to 10 calendar days before the council meeting. That's on Sunday, so we always, we have to do those public hearing notices on Fridays, like a week and a half out, and so I'm gonna be in Oregon, or I'll actually be in Washington State at that time. So we're gonna have to be in touch about that.
Yeah.
Continue working on it.
And I am putting a public hearing and comments on the budget and all that sort of thing, so I feel like when you put it on the agenda and you call it out, it invites people to come more so than just citizen input and stuff like that, so we'll try and advertise that so that we can get folks to come tell us what they think.
What kind of vehicles are we thinking for town council?
Like Vespas. Yeah.
Just
Vespas.
run out. What is your app out?
Electric
You-
biker.
You know, your bud kind of racks for them back.
I saw someone driving a Porsche, like a 30-year-old Porsche with a ski rack
The angled ski
on
on
the back.
like a 944.
I thought they were gonna go to Snowbird, and they did go to Snowbird.
Any comments from, any more comments? Okay, I will accept a motion to
I
adjourn.
move that we adjourn the Alta Budget Committee meeting on April 15th, 2026.
I second.
Yeah, there we go.
Motion by Dan, seconded by Roger, all in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks.
You guys,
Bye.
Nice in California.
those look nice in California.
It usually
It is.
doesn't it?
It's a beautiful day here. I will say
I
that.
wouldn't want to let that.
Bye, team.
Let's bring up time.
Bye, thank you.
See you guys.